Hi folks, and we're back with another tutorial. As you can see here, my nymph box this year has completely changed. I've swapped over to having one pattern in a variety of different sizes and colour beads, and it's this little number here. We're going to start off with a heavyweight check hook, size 16, and this is a 3.5mm copper slotted bead. Onto that, I've just put some black nano silk in 12/0, great universal thread. And we've just whipped up to secure the bead in place. I thought I'd skip that bit because you've all seen me do that before. And I'm going to work down the hook now on curved hooks. I love turning them in the vise. It just makes life so much easier. But I'm going to come down not too far, just probably 3 or 4 wraps around the bend before we tie in the tail. Now, for nymphs, especially for this European nymphing style that I use these flies for mainly, Coq is the preferred tailing material. Some people like a really sparse long tail. I like quite a dense but shorter tail. I think it helps to create the right profile and a nice sharp impression of a tail. So I'm going to secure that in onto the top of the hook. I wouldn't recommend ever cutting the ends, but if there's one stray one, you can just nip in like I did there with the scissors. And I'm going to work my way up and secure this down before trimming off the end. That just helps me keep my profile and helps me build a nice taper up towards the bead. From here I'm going to add the ribbing. As you can see, I like to use a copper wire rib onto a copper bead just to keep things more aesthetic to the eye. Makes no difference to the fish at all, I'm sure of that. So again, I've secured that down and I'm making sure that I'm not wrapping down onto the tail before I come back up. For the body, we couldn't get more simple. Pheasant tail, the classic body material of so many flies. It stood the test of time. It's about 3 or 4 fibres. You don't have to be too precise. Too much and you'll get too bulky a body. Too little, it's too sparse. You might not get to the bead when you wrap. So what I opt for here is between say 4 and 6 fibres. Just make sure they're all lined up. Pull out any broken ones. And from here I'm going to tie that in at the tips. By tying in at the tips down as I wrap, the pheasant tail fibre wraps up the hook towards the butt of the pheasant tail, which is thicker, so it naturally creates the taper you're looking for. So straighten the hook back up in the vise now, and from here I'm just going to take the time to wrap this pheasant tail in touching turns. It's quite easy to separate the fibres here, and that's not what we're looking for. So just take your time and make sure you've got nice wraps butted up to each other, no gaps, no overlapping until you get to the bead. And from here I like to do a nice tight wrap right up to the bead, and 3 turns of your thread locks that in place. The next step, pretty much the same with any nymph if you've tied one before. We'll trim off the pheasant tail and then we're just going to come up with that rib. Opposite way to which we've wound the pheasant tail, so it overlaps and protects the fibres. Pheasant tail is quite a weak fibre, so that wire really does have a good effect on these flies. Again, a few wraps, secure it in place. Now from this point really, after I've wiggled off this wire, the world is your oyster and there's so many different thorax dubbings you can use here. I love keeping things natural, so I'm going to come in here with a lovely mix of squirrel and hair dubbing in this rainbow blend. It's that subtle bit of colour that I love. It's got such a nice texture to it, such a nice coarseness. So just wax up your thread and dub a noodle straight onto the thread. Be careful not to go too thick. I'd rather you start off with a thinner noodle and build it up. Too thick and you can overdo the thorax at the bead and make the fly look a little strange. So from here we're just going to wrap around. You can see me there, just tighten that noodle up as you wrap. It will become loose as you go. And we're just going to create a nice proportionate amount to the bead you've got. You can oversize these hooks with large beads, so put a little bit more in the thorax. If you're using a smaller bead, a little bit less. But after you've done that, it's as simple as whip finish here. And that nymph is perfectly fine to fish as it is, especially in clear water. A lovely natural fly like this is perfect. But to add a little bit of a hot spot, a little strike of a colour, Glow Bright's your friend. Choose any sort of Glow Bright colour you like. Mine here is a Fluoro Bright from Semperfly in the orange. It's a lovely reddy orange and just creates that nice focal point. I think it goes really well with a copper bead. And it's all down to personal preference. I've had great success on this fly for both Trout and Grayling. So if it's not broke, I'm not fixing it. So I'll stick with this colour. Just a touch of varnish as always, my insurance policy there on the thread. Before coming in with a whip finish. Like to keep things minimal here. Make sure I'm not making a huge band of hotspot. It's just a little couple turns just to add that little subtle hint of colour. And from there, your fly is finished. As I said, I tie these down from 12s all the way down to 18s. It's a great fly. Tie it up. These will catch you fish no matter where you go in the world, I'm sure of it. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll catch you again in the next one.